It's time for another lunch therapy.
All this talking and never any lunch.
All right, here we are. Live streaming to Facebook and YouTube and Periscope and Twitch. And thank you for joining us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe at my channel. It's over here down in the bottom. There's a little link. If you're on Facebook, just, like my page, Joel Marshall. Otherwise, just have a good time. We're here to escape all the crap that's going on in the world and talk about some stuff that maybe doesn't matter. Just taking a break. We like to start the show with 3 breaths. So if you'll join me, just feel your feet on the floor, and we're going to take in a breath. Hold it. And then let it out. One more time. We're going to take in a breath. Hold it. And let it out. And one more time. Hold the breath. And let it out. I have a very special episode today. I have a guest. He's someone that I have known for most of my life. And his name is Jeff Lowman. A lot of you people might be aware of him. He is a unique individual. He teaches school in Oman, in the Middle East, and he's joining me here today on what I like to call Interview Friday. So this is Interview Friday. We're going to be doing interviews every Friday with different people, and that's explained somewhat here in the interview. And let's just dive into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Lowman. All right, here we are. I have here as my guest today on Interview Friday, Mr. Jeff Lowman. Jeff Lowman is, what do you have behind you there, Jeff?
I've got some slee stacks behind me back from the 70s.
Is that from Land of the Lost, perhaps?
Land of the Lost, that's where I'm feeling right now, that I'm in the Land of the Lost. In reality, I'm actually in Oman, which looks more like this.
Oh, wow. This is
kind of a Land of the Lost without the dinosaurs or without the chaka.
So, yeah.
Chaka
was on Land of the Lost, yeah. Chaka. Okay. And they also had that song, Marshall, Will, and Holly, on a routine expedition in the greatest earthquake ever known. And that was one of those things that, people would say to me because my last name was Marshall. And they would just launch into all the time. So
you ever
familiar with that.
Do you ever see Chaka around? Does he have work still in LA?
I don't see him that often, but I believe we used to see him I always thought we would see him in movies, but I think it was a different guy. I don't think it was the actual Chaka guy. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll have to find out who the actor was who played Chaka. Nice of you to bring some visuals. I think that his forehead was some kind of prosthetic, so it disguises his identity a little bit. I always thought it was the guy, Ron Howard's brother, that actor, but I think that was a rumor that I created in my own mind, as we do. And so that's one of the things about this show. The reason that I'm bringing you on and I'm bringing on people that I grew up with is because it's a little bit of an exploratory mission to kind of see what made us who we are and where we went wrong, where we went right, and where do we go from here? So a lot of us, at our age right now, are kind of looking back, but also looking forward and saying, what can I do now? And a lot of us have done a lot of different things. And so we're finding that we have to reinvent ourselves, which is different, I think, from the way our parents dealt with life in a way, because they kind of took a career on and then just did that their entire lives. The world was changing around them, but I think the world is changing around us in a much more challenging way than perhaps our parents' time. And I realized that they had, went through a lot of different things like Vietnam and all that stuff, but we had different challenges. So
right.
so
we're living in the gig economy nowadays.
The gig economy, yeah. So it's early morning here. Well, it's not early morning, but it's early morning for me. It's 9 a.m. here. What time is it there in Oman, where you are?
8:47.
8:47 p.m.
p.m. No, it's 8:08 p.m. That's why it took us forever to try to figure out the time. And I think we were working on that for about 3 weeks.
That was
3 weeks it took us to figure out the time difference as to when we can actually talk at the same time.
I had my protractor out and some graphs.
Oh, man.
It's confusing.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Even with Google, it was impossible.
Yeah, and it's hard. You lose track of time here anyhow, So I'm finding that just that daily routine is off. I'm still teaching during the day, but I find that, like I say, you have to keep yourself busy. You got to do things that are fun, find hobbies. One kind of blessing I've got is, well, I have hair. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on that.
When a lot of our classmates have lost their hair.
Yeah.
And so with this social distancing, it turns out that the barbers are all closed because they're too close to you when they cut the hair. Yeah. And so my hobby right now is to grow the hair out. This is actually the longest it's been in quite some time. It usually would be down at the Turkish barbers by now. And so what I'm shooting for, and this is like my one chance, this is like the silver lining of this whole self-quarantine thing. I'm shooting for this.
Oh, wow. So you got a picture of a Lady Di.
Lady Di.
Her famous hairdo. I think you could do it, Jeff. I mean, Jeff was at one time known as Fabio, I believe. People called him Fabio. And so now maybe he'll be known as Lady Di.
Lady Di, I could grow her hair out. That's kind of what I'm working towards.
Speaking of Di, my gray hair is coming in. And I'm going to have to find a way to actually, do my own concoctions, maybe bring out the youthful colors that I'm used to. But it's tough. It's difficult. I don't know. It's going to be a war against the Asians.
What I would suggest you do is, because I've given it considerable thought, is that you gotta look like this guy.
Oh my gosh, Benjamin
You
Franklin.
definitely got the Benjamin Franklin look there.
I think I should go for that. I'm going to have to get rid of the facial hair. But it is a good look. I want to start with you, Jeff, and I want to go way back to when we met. Okay, so back in the Sleestack times, we met at Madrona Junior High School. I don't know, it became a middle school, I think, at that time. I'm not sure exactly how we became friends, but I'm interested in finding that out. I know we were in a class together, Mr. Nielsen's class. It was an English class. He had the habit of putting the kids with the better grades in the front of the row, and then if you had worse grades, he put you in the back. I don't understand the logic of that. Doesn't make sense. It was some kind of incentivized program, but who wants to sit in the front? And the bad kids should probably be, bad kids. See, there you go. That's right. A judgment, isn't it? The kids that were getting lower grades, you'd think he'd want them to sit up in the front.
Well, it was also a way. Well, it was that, and it was also the ski bus thing. But in that English class, I remember specifically that in the upper left part of the classroom, I think was Blake Atwell, and in the lower back was Sam Swanberg. Mm-hmm. And this is what happened throughout middle school and high school, is that we got classified according to our last name. So of course, who do I like? My early friends are like Joel Marshall, Matt Latimer, Eddie Mitchell. L's and M's and O's. They're all in there, but I didn't get to know any of the S's or the A's because they
That is
were
so true.
in different parts. And there were like 30 kids in those classrooms.
You know,
so.
we had Matt Wright on last week, and we were talking about how we spent our entire youth together in the same schools and the same situations, but we didn't spend a lot of time together, and maybe that was because of the first initials of our last names.
Yeah, if you're a W, you'd be best friends with him.
Totally.
There's so much about geography, yeah. So
yeah. And my girlfriend Vanessa also had an M for her initial, yeah, and that was because we sat next to each other in Mr. Evans' class, and romance bloomed.
Yeah.
Because of our alphabetical representation.
Proximity is everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember that. Then I also remember the ski team or the ski bus that we would go on. And so the Edmonds School District had that Saturday bus and the Sunday bus. And then I ended up seeing you on the ski bus. And
now that was on
it was
Saturday.
always hopeful.
Saturdays?
Yeah.
Saturday morning, we would go on the ski bus, and it was a school bus that would take us up to Stevens Pass, and we would ski every weekend. And I was thinking, you know, for me, that was one of the more adventurous things that I did, like initially. We'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get on a dangerous school bus with a driver. We have no idea if they're drunk or what, to take us up to a ski resort where we cascaded down the hill on skis at many times to our peril, right? And I remember the night before we'd go, I would start to get a little bit nervous. I don't know about you, but it was actually stressful for me. Did that happen to you?
The stressful thing was to be the last person on the bus because you'd have to go all the way up. I think to go up to Stevens Pass was something like 6 or 7 hours, or maybe more like 2. I don't know. It was a long ways on a school bus.
It was long. But to be in a school bus with a bunch of kids with no seat belts, and everybody's all excited. And if you loaded the skis, you got to go on first and choose your seat. And so oftentimes we'd load the skis. And if you didn't load the skis, they had playing cards and they deal them out. Remember that? And then if you had like an ace, then you could go first. But if you had like a 2, you go last. I don't know. Maybe the opposite.
Well, it was that, but then it was also
not good at math.
They gave you the ace and the king if you were going to suck in all the diesel fumes to load up the.
That was the other thing. If you
skis,
took on a lot of diesel. I took a lot of diesel on early in life. Also took on a lot of chlorine gas, breathing the air out of the jacuzzis, which we could get to. So that's that. I think that explains a lot of brain damage that we might have now in later life. That's
why we are where we are.
The other thing is, my mom would give me we didn't eat junk food generally, but for the ski trip, for some reason, maybe because she thought maybe I was going to expire on the trip, and so I might as well have fun, she would give me a giant bag of Cheetos and Coca-Cola, sometimes Dr. Pepper. And I couldn't wait to eat that stuff. So when we got on board, I would always just break it out like 5:30 in the morning. Just start eating those Cheetos. And I remember you just, were kind of nauseated by that or something.
I think everybody was. And I know a lot of us ate healthy. I know, like Sam Swanberg, he never ate junk food and he never loaded skis up. And now he's a state Supreme Court justice. So I think that goes to show one of the missteps we had.
Right. All the chemicals that we put into our bodies, whether it be diesel fuel or whether it be Cheetos and Coke or whether it be chlorine gas. Good point. It's a very good point. A lot of people there's a Madrona junior high school group on Facebook, and they often ask about Mr. Powell. Did you know Mr. Powell? Did you take shop class? We're never going to find out.
I never took shop class.
How about advanced Dungeons and Dragons with Mr. Powell after school?
I wasn't there either.
Jeez, Jeff. You kind of ran with a kind of a rough crowd, I think, when I met you. You were kind of a rebel renegade. Is that true?
I had a big puffy jacket, but I think that was the extent of it.
I see.
Yeah.
You also were a big Rush fan, and I
Oh,
don't
I
mean
still
Rush
am. Yeah.
Limbaugh. I mean the band Rush. You
Yeah.
still are.
I saw them last time I was in America. Like the third or fourth to last show before they called it quits. Yeah.
Mhm. And the drummer died, right?
The drummer died. Yeah, in January.
All right. Well, let's move away from that because that is just, I'm sure, a real sore spot for you. Did you ever teach people how to ski?
No, I never got that job at Hyatt, that lucrative job in Hyatt.
No. Did you ever
Uh,
just teach people though and not get paid for it?
I tried to teach my wife, but she didn't learn how, so
In
wasn't
Oman,
very successful.
in Oman, do they have ski?
In Dubai, there's an indoor ski area that is probably like a daisy chair, maybe 400 vertical feet. You're just
Yeah.
skiing basically in a giant freezer.
It's in a mall, right?
So that's a place to go in the mall. But I did work at the Mount Baker ski area with Doug O'Donnell
Right.
back in the day during the Bellingham days, and
Was that a good job?
was a lot of fun.
It was.
It was a really good job because you basically had to put people in the chairlift, and one person would basically either sleep or ski, and the other one would work on the chairlift. And so there was very little work involved. And Mount Baker is a beautiful place to be. And it's one of these weird places that during the Great Depression, the government decided to build a road into nowhere, and nowhere was a Mount Baker wilderness area. So that road doesn't go anywhere but the ski area. So once the skiers leave for the day, it's completely tranquil and beautiful. So yeah, it's a good place to work for a season or two.
I want to go back to high school real quick here because I wanted to talk about Frau Hall, who was our German teacher. And I wanted to just, for me, she was one of the highlights of high school because she was sort of a teacher / stand-up comedian. And I think she was somebody that we kind of rallied around in a sort of a reverence yet irreverent way. Can you tell me something about that?
Well, what I remember the most is how well organized she was. Because back in the day, where they had those overhead projectors that had the little wheels, and so she had like her entire unit on one of those wheels, and she would just kind of roll it out and then go over the German grammar or the
Wow,
the
I
vocabulary.
didn't realize that. Do you think you realize that now that you're a teacher? You look back at your teachers and go, well, what was the thing that helped them out?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Did they have a plan, or were they just going to talk about the Who concert?
She had a horn, I remember, behind a podium up there, and she would honk it sometimes at the end of a joke. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah, remember the horn?
Did you ever do that?
Did I ever honk the horn, or did I ever?
Do you ever honk the horn in your class?
No, I don't. I don't have a horn.
Perhaps you should do that.
I'm the weird teacher that has a meditation bowl. So actually picked it up when we were in Goa together, and I put the bowl on my hand, and I did the singing bowl for a while. And so the kids seem to like it.
Well, you do a lot of meditation, right? Did you do a lot of meditation?
Yeah. The thing that fascinated me was that a lot of times with schools, you get a lot of burnout in the spring. And so I asked myself, it's like, why is everyone so stressed out because of spring fever? I mean, we shouldn't have all this stress built up. It should just be dissipated every day. And I just saw too many teenagers that were really freaked out, stressed out, clinically depressed, that sort of thing. And so became interested in just kind of kicking back and taking a couple breaths like you do at the beginning of every show. So that it's kind of a big thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's what I try to do in my show. But I learned that, I started doing meditation when my brother told me about it. There was like a book that he sent me. And then also you said you were doing some meditation. I thought I'd look into it, see if I could do it. I figure, yeah, I might as well give it a try. And I think it's quite valuable. Do you ever play the guitar in your class? For your class?
I tried a little bit this year, but I didn't do very well. I got to work harder on that.
That was one thing that Frau Hall did. She would play the guitar sometimes too.
Yeah. Alle Jahre Vita, hope that's the dimensions and.
Do you remember
the Christmas carols?
Do you remember the poem that we learned?
Die Anemone.
Yeah. How does it go?
Darum Herbst, die kleine
tote Meise ist
gelegen hat, ist nun
ganz leise einer Anemone aufgewacht. Sterne stehen jeden.
Dann bist du wieder allein.
Dann du nicht traurig sein, soll das Leben so ist. Solange der Mond nicht runterfällt, kannst du ruhig an der Welt bleiben. Und warum nicht? Die Meise ist eine Anemone. Sometimes I pull that out. I don't know. It just sits there in the back of my head for when I meet Germans.
Right.
And then I just start, and they are usually duly impressed. But then they think that I speak German.
Right. I use that dialogue as well. Just the part where it's sometimes somebody's going to kiss you, and then you're going to be alone. But that's how life is, okay? And just as a standalone, you walk up and you say that. I think last time I did that, there were some Germans who were commiserating the terrible showing in the World Cup of the German team. Yeah. And so I bought them some Jägermeisters and told them that and walked away. So.
Oh my gosh, that's good. I remember rehearsing that in the, cafeteria and doing it in a very goofy way because we were trying to remember it. And then, so we were all laughing about it. So then when I got up and did the poem, everybody was laughing and I was laughing. It was the start of my stand-up career. And, I thought it was fun. But afterwards, Frau Hall said to me, you see, Joel, you're always joking. And then when you try and do something serious, everybody laughs.
Would you like to hear my version of that memory?
Yes, I love that.
Okay, so we had to recite the poem from our chairs, I believe. Yeah. From memory. And you were the only person to say the title. And when you said the title, that's when everyone started to laugh.
That was part of the humor.
You said the title because you were trying to be funny.
You're right.
But she was giving you the benefit of the doubt and thought that you were trying to be serious.
Yes. And what is it about, I'm exploring comedy here on this show, therapy and comedy. But I wonder, what is funny about saying the title?
What is funny about the title? I suppose it's so
dramatic.
It's so dramatic for a poem that 32 students all recited.
To actually put the title on top of it seems like gilding the lily or frosting the cake, or I don't know what the other metaphors are. I don't think frosting
rolling the kernel.
Rolling the kernel. Exactly. Sort of like rolling the kernel. So I wanted to ask you also, you wrote a song yourself. It's one of my favorite songs, and I wondered if you could, give us a little bit of it here.
Oh, I don't have my guitar down here.
I could sing it with you if you want. I don't know all the words, I don't think, but we could. But if you want to sing it a cappella, I'm sure our listeners would love it.
Okay. So you want to give it the countdown?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Bigfoot is my best friend, Bigfoot. Bigfoot is my best friend. I love him, and he loves me. Walking through the forest, Bigfoot's forest. Walking through the forest. Look out for that trap. It's over there. So.
Wow, I love it.
That's part of it. I think there's a missing verse somewhere that's in an attic somewhere.
I didn't even know there was that much to it. When I sing it, I just say Bigfoot is my best friend, Bigfoot. Bigfoot is my best friend. Da da da. But there's more. I mean, there's it's really good. I think that's one of the things about Bigfoot. I think because we had Chaka, perhaps we had a little bit more of an affinity towards Bigfoot. I was scared of him though, because there was that, video of him walking. Do you ever see that on Insertia? Yeah. And he just kind of looks, and he doesn't look like I'm going to kill you kind of look. He kind of looks like, what is that? Sort of like, you're looking at Bigfoot going, what is that? And he's going, what is that?
Yeah. Well, and there was that documentary, $6 Million Man.
Yeah.
It had a whole thing on Bigfoot.
Yeah, the documentary about the man who replaced all his vital organs with computers. Is that what you mean? The $6 Million Man? I think that was a dramatic show. I don't think it's a documentary.
No, I'm pretty sure it's a documentary.
Oh.
Because they went and they found Bigfoot.
I see.
It was a double episode. It was like a full hour of Bigfoot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
$6 Million Man.
I remember.
I guess I remember the '60s different from you, but
I guess that's
why
one
I
of
was
the things
frightened
that
of Bigfoot.
we're trying to figure out is like, is memory malleable, and does it change? And do you make yourself your own hero or your own victim of your story, like me and the Diana Monet story?
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding on to that for a long time.
Yeah.
And you helped me kind of work through it. Maybe therapy. When they do therapy, they should bring in like your oldest friend, so that he can stand there and be like, no, that didn't happen. And then you'd be like, oh, that didn't happen. Not as traumatic as I thought. I was being a jerk. Okay, so now I want to move it forward, because there's something I want to talk about. I have a couple notes here because there were some things that I want to make sure that I hit upon. And one of them is Homer Simpson. Can you explain the thinking behind this? Maybe you have some pictures you can put up. But the very unique thing about you is that you travel a lot, but you also bring this friend of yours.
Well, I credit Jerry Parton for the Homer Simpson idea, because when I was traveling to Europe back in the days of film cameras, I would be the person who's like, oh, I only got 24 more pictures. It's a 36 exposure, and I like really not want to take pictures because I would just waste them away. But I wanted to go to Europe, and I wanted to have some photos of it. And so Jerry said, well, why don't you just take a Ken doll and just take pictures of the Ken doll everywhere? And so I thought that was a really good idea. So I had a Homer Simpson doll, and it was a great icebreaker. It was sort of like a Mr. Bean type of thing, where you just look really awkward taking a picture of a doll in front of the statue of King Henry the Navigator, or in front of the Eiffel Tower, or what have you. So it was a good way to meet people. But at first, it's like on Halloween, when you really feel uncomfortable in your costume, and that's really a good sign, because you're going to be the best dressed costume person at that Halloween party. But at first, you need to feel uncomfortable. So with Homer Simpson, it was the same sort of thing, where you felt really uncomfortable looking like a special needs man with your doll and taking photos of it. So
when you refer, I just want to break in for 1 minute. When you're talking about being uncomfortable in your Halloween costume, are you talking about that time you took that giant pumpkin and put it on your head, and were the pumpkin head guy? And it was like a huge pumpkin, like a real pumpkin, and you were wearing it around for a long time.
Yeah, that was something I thought maybe I shouldn't walk around with a pumpkin head on there.
Or maybe you should have gotten a smaller one, or maybe one that wasn't actually a pumpkin.
It worked pretty well. I wish I could bring the picture up, but it kind of rested on my shoulder.
You'll have to send me that picture. Maybe I can put it in the show.
Yeah, I can do
that. You used to also. Homer, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so Homer. I handed him off to a lot of people. I had a student whose older sister was going off to Iraq, and that's when the war was raging. So Homer went to battle and got some good videos of him in Iraq. Homer also went to Antarctica. One of the teachers I work with, he and his girlfriend went to Antarctica. So I've got some beautiful pictures.
So you got him on every
on
continent?
Instagram.
Do you have him on every continent?
Antarctica, he never stepped foot, but he was on a boat looking in there. Those tours are more expensive, and Homer felt that he wanted to save the environment in Antarctica, and he didn't need to trounce around on the gravel to disrupt it.
So you actually, have communicated with Homer, this little plastic doll.
When I sleep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there are a couple things here that I wanted to talk about. One is you have an Instagram account with the pictures people can go to?
Yes. So he's up there. I should know it. Homer's Odyssey, 1990, I believe.
Okay. And also, apparently he made it back to his creator.
He made it back, met his maker, and that was through Ginny. She took him to.
Yeah, so you have a picture of him with Matt Groening.
Yep.
And then shortly after that, he disappeared. Is this true?
It's true. We don't know if it was a kidnapping. I'm thinking from what I learned on Tiger King that 5 years has to pass before a missing doll or a missing person can be considered to be dead.
A crime. Oh, dead. Yeah. Okay, so we're still thinking he's going to pop up. A lot of people that I've talked to, my friend Neil Phillip, who you know, he said that he'll turn up, and he's pretty wise that way. So I'm thinking that's probably going to happen. Okay, so now we've gone almost too long, but we're hanging in there. There's a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. One is you lived in Thailand for a long time, and you worked at a place where they threw vegetables. Is this true?
Oh yeah. It goes back to where to start with that one. I guess there's that old joke. What do you do with a history degree? Look for a job.
That's what I was hoping you'd show that picture. People can't see this on the podcast, but it's a picture of Jeff when he was working in Alaska with two fish. Although I was hoping for the nude picture that you have where you're holding the fish in front of you. Do you have that picture? It's not
only
nude.
for special people.
It's not nude.
No, it's
you
just
have
a
the
fish
fish
in front of me.
Yeah. Jeff used to make Christmas cards, which cannot be found anywhere on the internet, I'm sure. But they were, he would always have them that would be slightly offensive because he'd be somewhat nude. He would not be actually nude. He'd have, like, when he worked at a pizza place, he had the pizza, what do you call that?
Peel.
Peel?
A peel.
Oh, so there we're learning. So the thing that they put the pizza in the oven with is pizza peel. He had the pizza peel in front of him. He had that. He had another one where you were dressed as a priest.
The 10-year high school reunion.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah,
So
that was a fun one.
We're all over the place, but when in high school, a high school reunion, I guess it was the first one, the 10-year.
It was a 10-year, yeah.
10-year. Jeff came back to the reunion wearing a priest outfit, and what was the thing? Like you were talking to somebody, and you finally told him, "Look, I'm not a priest." Was it Jay Cruikshank?
I think it was Carl Harrington threw some Latin at me that he had learned from a heavy metal song.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Oh, you're not a priest. You would know that." But what really surprised me is lots of people just assumed, they're like, "Well, how did you become a priest?" And I said, "Well, in reality, you have to do seminary school for about 7 years." But I told people, I took a correspondence course, and they made me a priest. And I didn't even have a cross around my neck. I had like this Grateful Dead polished stone.
Maybe you were a priest from the Temple of Syria.
I might have been.
It could have been.
And people asked, are you allowed to drink? I'm like, yes, I'm allowed to drink. And so at Fish Head Charlie's that first night, I don't think I had anything out of my pocket to go towards that bar that was not an open bar. So that was kind of came out of, I hadn't really done anything because I had gone into the Army for 3 years and then spent about 5 years getting my undergraduate degree. And then I went to fishing, but I didn't have a career. So a lot of people were showing up there and they had jobs that paid much more than I was getting. And so I thought I'll just go as a priest.
So it was like an insecurity
so
that you played into a whole thing. Do you find yourself doing weird things just to get people's reaction?
What would be an example of that?
dressing up like a priest at the reunion, just to kind of see, like, as a social experiment, how are people going to react if I decided to become a priest? Do you do, or when you take Homer Simpson around, do you do things just to kind of see, what their reaction is? Do you do anything now, like in your life, as a mature teacher, that is a social experiment, say in your class?
In class, I lie quite a bit. I make things up. And a lot of times it's just to see whether they're listening or not. So when we talk about Lloyd George, who was the British Prime Minister during leading up to World War II, I'd always just say, Lloyd George, not to be confused with Boy George. And I'd have the pictures of the two guys up there. And that guy on the left is Boy George. The guy on the right is Boy George and Lloyd George. They're not the same people, okay? They're different time periods. And then 10 years ago, the students would know who Boy George was, but now they don't so much. And then when I say, who Boy George is, right? And I just go off on them. I'm like, well, what are they teaching you in science class? Tell me what they're teaching you in science class. And the kind of the higher students will kind of get the joke. And then others are like, why would they teach us that in science about an 80s pop star? So little things like that here and there. So.
I like it. What do you like? Okay, here's some questions for the kind of the end of the interview here. Do you like to be late, or do you like to be early?
Early.
Really? Why?
Always like early, because there needs to be some think time before you get into something.
Do you like to read books or listen to books?
Listen to books, just because I sit so much anyhow. It's nice to walk and listen to books.
Do you consider people that listen to books less than people that read books?
No, but there is that social stigma.
There is a social stigma, isn't there? I think that's a listening shaming.
It is. Because if you say, I read this.
Oh, I lost you. Are you there?
Have you ever had that happen before?
What? Because what happens to your audio?
Where you tell somebody you read a book, and then they know you listened to it, and they're like, no, you listened to that book. You didn't read that book.
I've had that many times where I said I read it, and they were like, nope, sorry, you didn't. You listened to it. Go back and read it. It's really just about interface. It's about your interface with the book, whether it's your ear. Mm-hmm. And I happen to be a visual person, so words don't always, elicit the images that, I get when I listen to something. And also I can listen to it while I'm driving a car or doing something else. Okay, so do you goal set? Because, now we're, getting to an age where we got, a lot of people are just kind of kicking back and drinking a beer and just going, I guess I'll just binge watch Breaking Bad for the rest of my life. And other people are saying, I got this much left in my life. Some of it's almost half of it sometimes. What am I going to do with it? How about you? Do you goal set? Or are you always trying to change it up? Because clearly in your life, you've always changed it up.
Yeah, I'm a habitual to-do list person. But it's not so much a to-do list of things I have to do, but it's more of an anxiety list. So if you feel like you're just kind of relaxed, kind of sitting out, and you're like, oh, where do I feel all the stress coming from? And then there's 2 or 3 things a day that are really stressing you out. So yesterday, I did my taxes, and then I also did what else? I learned some Thai, because I feel like I'm slipping with that. So I don't like a task list. I like an anxiety list. So find out where that stress is and then address that.
Can you say, perchance might I have a bowl of spaghetti in Thai?
Perhaps a ko goitio spaghetti damagrap.
You're making that up.
No.
Really? Wow, that's good. How about my dog has no nose?
Ma Maimi Jamuk.
Wow. All right, I think we're gonna end the interview on that incredible display of language skills. So we end it on an up tone. I just want to say one more thing about Frau Hall. I got to get this out here because I was, talking about how she made fun of me, or didn't make fun of me, but, said that thing. She also, later on in life, I was doing a play where I just spoke German. And it was about to go up on stage. And the assistant director said to the director, I don't think he's speaking German. I think he's speaking French. Or doesn't sound like German. It sounds like French. And so I got all like freaked out. Like, what am I going to, I don't know. So I called up Frau Hall and I said, I got to run this German by you. Just out of the blue, I called her. I said, I had to run this German by you. Can you just tell me if it sounds like German? And she said, oh, I happen to have a room full of Germans here. So I'm going to put you on speakerphone. So she put me on speakerphone and I said all of my lines. And then she got back on the line. She's like, yep, they said it sounds like German. See you later. And so that just helped me out so much. And it was cool because she didn't even ask me for any kind of explanation or anything. Just like, yep, got a room full of Germans. Here you go. Okay, thank you very much. And anyway, so that was cool. And that gave me the confidence to go on stage and speak German and not have that girl tell me it sounded like French. So that's the thank you to Frau Hall out there. She lives in Arizona or something now, I think. So
Yuma, I believe.
Yeah, maybe she'll come in the chat room. All right. So Jeff, is there anything else you want to say?
No, thanks for having me on. We'll chat again, maybe.
All right. And over and out. This has been the Lunch Therapy Friday interview.
Okay, everybody. That was the interview with Jeff Lowman, one of my best friends. We've been friends forever. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's the end of the show today. I'll see you next Monday, and have a great weekend. We're going to indulge a little bit in the Land of the Lost for the end of the show.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on the routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, it struck their tiny raft and plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land